more of this kind of 12 tribes information. There's like another faction of people that aren't often considered, and that's the sojourner. A sojourner doesn't it's like a person who lives among your people but ain't necessarily your people. And it's like, should you, when they're alien, you're really not supposed to reveal to them your basically your holy things, your sacred things. But if he's a good person and he sincerely wants to know the ways of your God, you're supposed to kind of walk them through in stages. And whichever tribe basically who converts the sojourner, or a foreigner, to see an alien isn't quite a sojourner. A sojourner means they journey along with you. An alien is someone who you have no idea who they are. They don't know you, and you just kind of bump into each other. I mean, you don't have to stay an alien, but back in olden days, it was like it's just as segregated then as it is now. But there are times where peoples kind of what is the word there? Assimilate one another, and two peoples can become one in a way, or but you can still, you know what I'm saying, follow back their relation. You know what I'm saying? That's like in native terminology, it means you're a relative. That just means you're related, and then that would almost be like the tribes. You know what I'm saying? You'd have smaller factions of one tribe, but yet they're related to another tribe, which is a separate body of people. But there'll be places like along your territories where they'll be commingled. But yeah, it says yeah, hate not the sojourner. You know what I'm saying? So there's another biblical thing where it's like there's a distinction between like even before Jews and Gentile, you know what I'm saying, or Israel and the Gentile, or the heathen and the Gentile and the Jew and the Christian and all that, in Israel, all these different factionalized things, or Ephraim, the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom basically is some of Benjamin, some of Levi, and Judah. But what's weird, here's another thing that's like 12 tribey. I'm not sure. I could be mistaken here, but it's like there's a time, just like when they had to spread out and find judges. Same thing with Levites. Levites, though they all fell under the priesthood of Aaron, they, from each different tribe, they would select their own Levites from that tribe, so that their own family members would serve their own tribe, but yet they fall under Levi in a way, or at least they're a Levite, and then their inheritance isn't land or anything. Their inheritance is the word itself. They're in charge. They're in charge of these things. But see, now my buddy was telling me that we're not under the Aaronic, like heirs to Levi or Aaron. There's something called the Order of Melchizedek, and that was what they actually followed from the beginning. And after they lost the knowledge in Egypt, God had to teach it to them again on Mount Sinai through Moses. So I mean, that's basically what it is with the whole Ark, the Covenant, and the Tabernacle, and even to the temple's just like a bigger version, permanent version of the Tabernacle. And it's like if a sojourner gets converted, he's allowed to go in to the regular ceremony just like everyone else. But while he's an alien, you're not supposed to really speak on it with them, because even if you did, they wouldn't understand, and it's none of their business, in other words. But it's the same thing with the they give the acorns to pigs, give the bones to the dogs, and get trade your pearls with your with your own your other fellowshippers, I guess. But it's just funny how much of this stuff is in there that you wouldn't recognize the way they teach things nowadays. Just like in Revelations, once again, just like in the beginning in Genesis, they have the 12 patriarchs mentioned in there. In Revelations, they mentioned the 12 patriarchs, and that's the 24 elders. And there's 12 from the beginning and 12 from the end, supposedly, something to that effect. And there's basically an elder of every generation, every time, that will, there's kind of like there'll be a chain of them, and they all give a certain record or a certain witness, from the beginning of the time till the end. And it's kind of, it's what that whole book of life and all that stuff is about. But it's the same thing. Like Jesus, he says he goes to where? He goes to Samaria, which is actually, you can follow that back to Sumer, and that's the whole Gilgamesh people and all that Anunnaki area, the lands of the Anunnaki, and basically his disciples, and they're like, "Why are you going there? That's the foreigners." And Jesus says, "Oh, don't think that I go to Samaria to see foreigners, or Gentiles. I go to find rather that the lost sheep of the tribe of Israel." So I mean, Jesus is going after the lost tribes. Like, look, and so many people overlook that, and they would think that was just wayward Jews or Judah. When at the time Judah knew who they were, all the way across the board. They were still they were displaced like the northern kingdoms was. And you can chase that right back to the Solomon. Like, look, when David sinned, an angel came and struck the angel with the flaming sword came and struck Jerusalem, and for his transgression, and I think his first child died. And then with Solomon, after he basically transgressed, and he was punished by getting the northern kingdom stripped. And he said, well, since you can't be faithful with this much of the kingdom, he's like, this much is going to be taken away. And even before this, there was already kind of like inner tribe kind of hostilities and kind of like racisms is a good way to, or prejudices, like gangs, the Bloods and Crips. Israel was like Bloods and Crips, more so, and their relations was very mercenary towards one another, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. It's really like these people have to try so hard, they have to run so fast to keep this stifled, that topic stifled, because it's everywhere, and from the beginning, from Genesis, it's in there. It's in Exodus as well. It's in Numbers, and it's in Deuteronomy. They number the tribes, and they tell each one what his lands is. So like when they tell you Israel is just that little city size state, it's even that's a lie. Israel's territory was huge. You know what I'm saying? So nothing is what it would seem for looking at it from our present time. Even with all the time changes and all that, and it's like, and it's straight up like you can trace back, you can trace back a lot of stuff, man. It's like it's not as concealed as you would think. It's not sought out, so it's kind of crazy. So here you see. Now, thinking about it, you see some populations of people who have what you call like quasi-Israelite Hebrew customs. And that's possibly because these are maybe people of sojourners that have not really been much talked about because they're not considered. And like I was saying, it's like, if I'm not mistaken, converts like that basically fall in under Ephraim, or the tribe of whatever person who was related to the actual circumcision, the covenant or whatever. Whoever is the one that teaches you and gets you to convert, you come in under their tribe, and you are also co-inheritors of their inheritance of that tribe. So, according to the Bible, man, I mean, it's been a while since I read this, and I can't remember exactly which book I read it in, but I'm pretty sure that's what it says. And this isn't expounded on much in church, because if you were to do it, then they would have to, their whole Israel Zionist deception would fall apart if they actually acknowledged and admitted that there is truth to what I'm saying here. Just look, it'd be easier just to label me as a heretic and dismiss it than it would be for these people, these men, to search out the scriptures daily to find out if these things be true or not. You know, there's a part in one of the, and I think it's either in Chronicles or Kings, where it was like there was this king, everything was great, he loved his job, he loved his kingdom. And one day these guys actually accidentally broke open a hollow wall, and there was books of Moses in there. And this king was like, and he has people read them and translate them. And the dude rends his freaking garments because he's like, we don't follow none of this anymore. And then he instantly goes through and has everyone chop down all the gardens, all the high places, all the temples, all the idols. You know what I'm saying? Where they do the baby sacrifices and the Humpty Dumpty dance in your pants, where the ladies wear no pants, like in Ezekiel when they look under the temple. It's a very that's a very enlightening scripture there, because if it's the equivalent to these days, and what's crazy about it is people have Bibles, and it's like it's not a hidden document hidden in a wall. We have it. It's hidden in our hands, in other words. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing, I ain't nothing special. I'm just some guy, man. Yeah, I mean, but hey, God, it's like, well, like Paul says, I don't know anything other than that what God would ought me to know. And that's how you get it from God. It's what God ought have you to know. Each person. So just because a person ain't been revealed it yet, you can't get mad at them or God. It's just you got to figure out a way to bridge the gap for them. Like be like, look, you haven't pushed all the way through yet. You need a little slingshot real quick. Research this. It's what you do is, in a way, you open a can of worms for them. You be like, I know where the can of worms lies, and they gotta pop it open. And since there's worms everywhere, it's like it gives them it revigorates the race. They gotta go get all these dang worms now and put them back in the thing. But that is what the push they needed to get digging and searching and learning, and you know what I'm saying, turning the tide again back in the right direction. You know, because I mean, if you have nothing left to look, that's the thing. The thing that's wrong with people is they think they have enough. They think they know everything they need to know. It's because they've been dumbed down, and there's a whole doctrine of tickling the ear to get people in a false security, kind of like the rapture doctrine. You know what I'm saying? It's like, to dispel a rapture doctrine, you can look at the prophets. They were murdered by the people they were trying to prophesy to. Then the people were put into judgment because they murdered the prophet that was sent to them. They didn't get raptured. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing. Daniel, in a way, kind of got saved because they threw him in a fire. He didn't die. They threw him to the lions. The angels saved him. So, I mean, look. That was one guy and his friends when in the fire's case that got just a small rapture. I mean, even Joseph, when he was stuck in the prison as a prisoner, he got released after much suffering and much just whackness, and then being in a totally horrible environment, and he still kept his faith during the whole time. It was like while people were messing with him, they would be listening, sneaking up, listening to him pray to God, and then he said he'd stop praying because he didn't want to give the people joy and entertain them. But they would sneak up and catch him praying all the time. When he was basically a slave. So I mean, he didn't get raptured until later. He was exalted.